All right, I think we're live now.
Yeah.
So thanks for joining, everybody. I know more people will join as we get going. The reason we wanted to do this, they ask us anything, is because we know the market has shifted. There's a lot of fear and uncertainty, a lot of frustration, I'd say, with the market, with agents, and their buyers and sellers. We wanted to lend ourselves to help any way we can to help answer some questions or give some ideas of what you can do in this market, not just to survive it, but obviously to thrive it. To maybe even have some of your better years inside of a shifting market, because a lot of agents can do that. So that's why we're doing this today. Anything else to add to that, Long?
Yeah, Mike and I have lots and lots of real estate friends, not just here in Minnesota, but all around the country. And we get these texts and this call and this direct messaging all the time about all these questions. So we're like, I bet you a lot of other friends would like to hear, the answer to some of those. And one thing about us is we always want to raise the level of professionalism for our real estate industry and community as a whole. So it doesn't matter if you're an agent here with us at Realty Group here in Minnesota, or if you're on the East Coast, West Coast, all of our friends are welcome to ask questions, because we want to all learn together. And like Mike said, we want to help everyone not just survive, but thrive, because this shift is here. And according to NAR, up to 40% of the agents may get out of the industry unless they are prepared and ready for this.
And if you want to ask a question, you can do it one of two ways. You can raise your hand. We can bring you on as a panelist to ask a question to us, vocally, or you can type it into the questions. Vocally, we will catch every single one of them. Once in a while, one will slip on the written ones. So feel free to do it any way you want. All right. So as we get going, we're gonna have some questions. It looks like one of our agents, Linda Alter, is talking about the mentorship program from a team perspective, team leader perspective. What is the status of it? You do not, agents that go through the mentorship program, they can either be team agents or they can be solo agents. We have some deals worked out with teams. Some teams mentor their own agents, but if they're through our program, it's the same as anybody else.
Yeah, for those not from Realty Group, here at Realty Group, the only way a brand new agent can join us is to go through our mentorship program. Sometimes we may make an exception if they're team leaders or someone's experienced enough to mentor them, because we know 80% of all real estate agents fail within the first couple of years. So brand new agents face a really uphill battle, especially in the shifting market. So that was the question meant for our own mentorship program we have here.
And as far as what the program consists of now, myself, Brian Durham, and a few others, Linda Maxwell, have taken it over. It's more robust than ever and more productive than ever. So Linda would be happy to kind of walk you through that in more detail. Okay, so do new agents have to join the program? They do, unless they're sponsored by a team, yes. All righty, ready for the next questions. What do we got here? Let's see. Here's one. Long, what do you think the predictions are going to be for 2023?
Yeah, I mean, you and I get this all the time, right? We have discussion with people all around the country on this. You got the half full, half empty predictions, all of it. But Mike and I believe that it's going to be a tougher year. So for agents who've been around the last 3, 4, 5 years, it's been very easy. So the interest rate drive the market on the real estate side. Now, real estate is account for almost 17% of the GDP for the United States. So we are the one who's going to help our country get out of the inflation and the recession. So as interest rates stabilize, there's still a shortage in inventory. So I think the first quarter is going to be the hardest hit for 2023. After that, you start seeing that it'll get better and better.
Well, I think too, a couple of things I want to add. So there's different scenarios. What's going to drive this is going to be, what is inflation going to do? What are rates going to do in response to inflation? What is inventory going to do? So trying to predict for an entire year is difficult. So we've seen predictions and models that we could have a positive growth year of 2 to 3 to 4%, a negative growth year of 5 to 7%, downward pressure on pricing. What I will say is this: in Minnesota, because every market is different, there is no national market. Every single market is different. Here in Minnesota, one thing I'd like to point out, in 2023, we sold about the same number of homes as a state as we did in 2011 and 2008. And those were pretty rough years. Now, of course, there's more real estate agents practicing today, so the competition's stiffer. NAR does predict that 41% of all licensed agents in the country will be gone by the end of 2023. So the competition is going to lighten up a little bit, it looks like. But what I saw personally when I was looking at the numbers last year was a decline throughout the year through the first half, and then a sharp drop at the middle of the year. We're talking like the decline doubled in 3 to 4 months. What seemed to happen in the last couple of months is it stabilized again. NAR put out a decent piece on their prediction, saying that they think that the market's going to more normalize this year, was the term they use. Now, if you look at Freddie Mac or Bankrate or any of the other people that predict Zillow or any other data models that do predictions, you're gonna get stuff all over the place. But here locally, what I've personally been seeing is sort of a stabilization over the recent months. Now, hopefully that's an indicator that even if we have a decline, it's going to be, a couple points a month of, 2, 3, 4% less homes sold per month, rather than, 15, 20, 30% month over month from the year before. So we're hoping for stabilization, and that's what it's looking like currently right now.
Yeah, you're right, Mike, and you mentioned it already. It's different in market to market because every different markets, when you were talking about the production and the sales number, right? But also looking at the prices of homes, the market that had a really big increase in price will see a bigger drop adjustment versus the one that didn't have as much. But at the end of the day, a lot of markets are going to see a deceleration and not a decline in market. Like you said, some predict down to -5, some is just a slowdown. So here in Minnesota, I think it's going to stabilize and the home price will remain or slow down and won't see a big drop.
And again, this is kind of what it's looking at right now, but there's all these factors in different scenarios. How much inflation pushes up, what does inventory do, what does rent prices do this year? That's going to play into it. So all those factors are going to really come down to supply, demand, and cost of money. That's really what it's going to be.
Yep.
All right. So next question. So one of our agents asked about our model. Just a good reminder what our model really is. Our model is a flat fee affiliate model, which most people do know that. We do commercial also. We do a 10% split on commercial, just simply because of the liability and extra services we have to outsource there. That's what that is. So thanks for asking that question.
Yeah, it's especially for those who've been in the real estate industry for a long time, right? I mean, this is my 32nd year. Mike, you've been in it for a long time. How many years now?
Oh, I started in 98, whatever that is.
Yeah, so we've been around for a while, and we've seen every industry has a shift, right? Uber, people still get rides, they still do them differently. Expedia, still travel differently. Netflix, you still watch movies differently. Well, especially recently with the holidays, Amazon, people still shop, they do them differently. Now shopping shows up to your house versus you having to go out if you need to. Well, the real estate industry has also gone through a big shift in the model. The traditional real estate model making a lot of adjustment, but new models are out there as well. And the flat fee transactional fee model is one of those models that really taking a lot of popularity.
So let's talk about the next question we got on the screen here. What are mortgage buy downs and why should we be interested in these?
Yeah, this because the interest rate was so low the last couple of years that people forget all of the different options they're out there for mortgage program. Of course, consult with your mortgage loan officer that you work with, but there are options that you can buy down. So it all depends to how long you plan on staying to the home. If you're only buying it and flip it in 2 years, this may not be the best option for you, but you see this mostly with builders. So a lot of builders have overbuilt, especially in certain markets, and they have to offer a buy down to get your rate so you can get into the home. So essentially what it is you can spend some of the money to buy your rate down from either 7 down to 5, 5.5, so you can afford it. And they're going to do some concession to help you buy down if you're not the one paying it. But a buy down is a great option, Mike, even assumable. I mean, it used to be popular, right? And that might be making a comeback. Also with ARMs, adjustable rate mortgage is also a very good option. Back in the day, it had a lot of bad rep because of all the prepayment penalty and what was happening. But I would encourage people to take a look at all different loan programs.
And also too, there's also seller concessions to buyers, right? Mm-hmm. And not every single loan program only has a 3% cap on that. Some can go higher, and there's ways you can really structure these deals. So the 2-1 buy down, or I've heard of now 3-1 buy downs, which are great. Where traditional 2-1 buy down, you're gonna get your interest rate 2% lower for 1 year. On year 1% lower on year 2, and then kind of back to normal. So you save a lot of money in those first couple of years. The question is who's going to pay for it.
Yep.
And with concessions now becoming more normalized in a transaction, and think of concessions we have. Usually it's closing cost concessions or buy down concessions. You can kind of work with this to figure out what's going to be best for you. But there's ways you can do that so you're getting that lower payment in the first couple of years. What's going to happen after a couple of years? Hopefully, you're going to make more money. You're either going to decide to move or refinance that mortgage so the rates do come down. And there's a lot of speculation on rates. Are they going to move up? Are they going to go down? Are they going to stay the same? But even if they go down a couple points in your refi and you stay there long term, it's getting you to that point that you can do that with less money out of pocket over the course of those few years.
Yeah. You also kind of brought up a good point through all this, Mike, is that about 1/3 of all buyers are still first-time home buyers, right? Mm-hmm. So if you consult with your real estate professional or a mortgage loan officer, they'll tell you they can do a rent versus buy comparison. It's not right for everybody. For the most part, owning a home is still way better, because why pay someone else's mortgage when you can pay your own mortgage, right? So if you can afford to get in, there's a lot of different loan program, depends on the municipality that you're from. There's a lot of down payment assistance program as well that your mortgage loan officer may have access to for you, because even at a 5, 6, 7% interest rate, you're still going to be better off buying versus renting. And according to the Federal Reserve, homeowners have 40 times the net worth and the wealth than renters, because when you own a home, you start building equity and wealth through your equity on your home, but you also start having stability. And there's a lot of things that's happened being a homeowner, which is why it's called the American dream.
And I want to say too that number actually was the lowest it's ever been since tracked with NAR with first-time home buyers. And now it's down, I want to say, to like 26%. And the average age that somebody's buying their first home is now in their mid-30s. I mean, that's never been this way before. So this is why having some solutions for people when they really want to buy, but they feel defeated. They feel it's unaffordable. They don't have options. Getting really, really good at having those conversations with people and getting to the motivation of why they should buy or why they rent. What are they really trying to accomplish? I mean, keep in mind, we all think about the retail therapy of buying a home. Like, that's the fun part. Nobody likes to move, whether you're moving out of a rental or selling your home, but getting to the core issue of what is it about where you're living now that you'd like to change, getting back to those motivations and figuring out how you can help take them from that pain point or the thing they're trying to change and find them the best option. You can move people through your sales pipeline faster and get them buying even younger, but it's going to take solutions, options, a lot of education that you're going to have to learn what you can actually offer them. The days of just being an order taker and saying, what would you like to buy? I'll fill out on a piece of paper, go and inform a search. Those days are ending. It needs to be a higher level conversation these days. Yeah, you're exactly right. All right, so we don't want to belabor that one too much more. So we have an agent that asked, do we feel like short sales or foreclosures are going to be coming back in the market in the near future? So, you're going to hear a lot. I'll let you kind of start with this one, because for those that don't know Long, he worked heavily in foreclosures back during the crash. I mean, we probably did about 1,000 transactions at foreclosure in that time. I'll let you start with this one. Yeah, I mean, Mike, you and I have many of these conversations, including friends around the country, right? Foreclosure and short sales, it's always around. It just spiked up back in the 08, 09, 2010. But this time around, we believe it's not going to be as back then. The reason being that it's the shortest inventory. There's still a shortest inventory. Because of that, banks can list a home or the homeowner have different options. Like, they can still work with one of our real estate professionals to sell the home. I think what you're trying to say and have equity. The equity. That's what I was saying. There's never been such a high amount of equity as there is since the almost 15% nationally on an average. Yeah, I mean, there's so much equity out there. So to truly go into foreclosure, you can stop paying your monthly payment and end up finding yourself in default and then foreclosure. But at the end of the day, we all know this, that have dealt with sellers in foreclosure. So many of them bury their head in the sand to the last minute, right? But even in that last minute, when you're pricing it under market value because they have the equity to do it, it's usually not going to go back to the bank. To the ones that are going back to the bank, the other thing that we got to talk about is how many banks now don't want to have their foreclosure signs spread all over the place. You heard the horror stories before, the bad PR, people leaving their pets behind to die, people they lost their house and the bank was the bad guy. So much has changed in the way that they package and sell these on the foreclosure auctions now. Now they're selling them in bulk to large institutional investors, and they're selling lots of them that way behind the scenes. So it's out of the public eye. So, I mean, I think that's something that we'll probably have to see. And the same thing with short sales. Short sales mean they don't have the equity to sell. So for people that bought in the last couple of years under like a 2 or 3% interest rate, and then they found themselves not being able to make that payment, yeah, you could find some short sale there. But so much of the population has the equity, they don't have to sell short, they just have to sell. Yeah, but what you said is very important, though, putting your head in the sand, right? If you're in those situations, reach out to a real estate professional and seek help, because we can take a look at to see how much equity you have in your home, if any, and advise you, because the longer you wait, the more that's going to eat up in your equity. Because you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 months down, all the attorney fees, the foreclosure fee that add up could be gone. But you have the option, so I would highly encourage you to reach out and explore it. But you're right, Mike. Banks this time around will do not want a bad PR, so they call them institutional buyers. Will buy them in bulk. They call them a take. Said, I'll take your non-performing loans. I'll take $2.3 billion if you want to sell me that. So banks rather go that route than be the one who have to make
to call or send you the foreclosure letter and put a foreclosure sign on your home.
And the other thing I want to add to that too is, let's see, there's another question, but on the topic of foreclosure, how would you ensure there are no liens on the properties? So one thing I want to go into before I answer that question is, remember that there's an equitable redemption period in Minnesota. It's not like this in every single state, but we find year after year that people are in foreclosure and they don't understand their equitable redemption rights.
6 months.
Yeah, in most cases, right? It could
Yep.
be 6 months, 5 weeks in certain cases, or
Yep.
a year in certain cases, depending on the circumstances. But about 90% of them are going to be foreclosure by advertisement, not by judicial.
Yep.
They're going to have the equitable redemption, and they're going to have it be the 6 months for like 90% of these, right?
Right.
So if they don't understand the redemption rights and they know they went through foreclosure, they think the bank's taking their house back and they've got equity they could redeem upon,
Yep.
right? So no, I mean, this is kind of a niche that you're going to have to learn and partner with people if you're not familiar with it. It's complicated. But to the next question of how do we ensure there's, liens and things of that nature as we're going through foreclosure, I would say that you're going to want to start with a title company that does this on a daily basis. You want not just somebody that does once in a while, but someone that's got a lot of experience in this could help guide you through that.
Yeah, and add back to the last question too, on a short sale, especially if you do have a client that needs help with a short sale, highly encourage you guys to work with an attorney firm, because if you're negotiating a short sale, you're giving legal advice and financial advice that you're not licensed to do, you can get in a lot of trouble. By the way, speaking of disclaimer, anything we share with you, if you are an agent not from Realty Group, make sure you consult somebody with your broker too. We are just sharing what we know out there. We're not giving you any advice as your brokers.
Correct. Yep. This is more just a mastermind and,
Yep.
free form conversation. Okay. Let's see if we got another question here. Okay. So let's go to the board. Are buyer's incentives a good idea? So that's actually, a very common, let's think about this, right? Because buyer incentives kind of went away for a while when the market was really hot. Are buyer's incentives a good idea? I like to frame it in this way. They're a really good idea when you're representing a buyer and you know for a fact that buyer is going to need them, and you're going to know for a fact that you can work those into a deal. But where they become harder is when we're still in multiple offers. Believe it or not, we're still seeing multiple offers. And I know people are not talking about this, right? So understanding what you're asking for and understanding how you're going to structure that and what kind of relationship you're going to build. This comes down to rapport you're going to build with that listing agent. Because sometimes, just sending an offer over, and agents still do this all the time. They send an offer over in an email. Here's our offer. And there's little to no conversation that happens. And then it all becomes about the numbers. I would say that if you're going to be looking for buyer's incentives, which I think you should in most cases right now, because it's negotiable and we're seeing tons of transactions happen with them, but make sure you don't just assume there's no offers or that it could spoil the deal. Get on the phone with the listing agent, have a conversation, figure out what you're dealing with, and go from there.
Yeah, I think what you kind of touch on that, Mike, is so important is that a real estate transaction you're working with is one of the largest financial transactions in a lifetime, but it's also one of the most complex and complicated. This is why the tech side hasn't figured out the way to cut out the real estate professional, because it's still localized, right? Based on municipality and county and city. But the important part is that every transaction is so different. Between you and I, we've probably done about 2,500 transactions. I say on the real estate side, not counting you did some mortgages, I did some mortgages, but probably 5,000 some transactions we've been involved in. We can honestly say very rare we've seen these one exact same transaction that happened twice. That's how complicated it is. And that's why it's so important to Mike touched earlier on education, to be learning all the different options available to your buyers and seller. And the buyer incentive is one of them. You're totally right. You have to explore the situation to see if it makes sense. It's not every time you should be asking for it. The one might be, you just want to get the house for your buyer, right? In a multiple offer. Well, you don't want to risk losing that transaction for them by asking for something that, not necessarily. So negotiation, emotional intelligence, just the way you think through the transaction is actually more important sometimes than knowing all the mechanics of the transaction.
100%. I mean, I cannot stress it enough how many deals come together just because you're able to really build rapport, connect with the other side, structure a deal together, build rapport together. Those things are extremely important. Okay, let's see here. All right, so at RG, are we going to be doing RGU, which is one of our training platforms for short sales and foreclosures? We 100% are. It's about mid-year, I think, in the schedule.
Yeah, this just that in case you don't already know, we do we do training here weekly, but we also do large training where we help people with specific topic like business planning and stuff like that. And we actually invite real estate professionals from the market to attend as well if they wanted to.
All right, so let's see here. Let's see what the next question we can answer here. All right, so how do we deal with uncertainty in the market? How do we manage clients' expectations? Well, I want to start with this, with the expectations part. One thing I think that's happening, we're seeing people's sales pipeline getting very slow. Like they're starting with a buyer, and sometimes it's taking months. It was taking months or a year before in the hot market because it took that long to find the house, and they were putting multiple offers in. This time, it's almost like they're looking for the, what do you call it, the needle in the haystack. So unless the house is exactly perfect, people aren't necessarily moving on it because there's an adjustment of expectation needed. Mm-hmm. What they were looking at a year ago is very different for the same price than what they're looking at today for the same monthly payment. Buyers are really struggling to get their head around that. Well, wait a second. Before I would have been qualified for a X dollar amount of house, and here's what it'll look like. And today it seems like I'm getting not even half of that for the same payment, which is true, right? There's been a big shift. But the difference is you may have, saw a $400,000 house, a year and a half ago that you had to pay $450, even $475 for, and that same $400,000 house today, you might be able to pick up for $380. So there is some differences there too that we need to explore. But the reality is we have to really look at our buyers' expectations and have the right conversations. Again, the days of being an order taker and just saying, tell me what you want, I'll go find it. It needs to be deeper level conversations. You need to figure out what their motivations are. Do they need to move or do they want to move? What are they trying to move away from? Where are they trying to go? Right? What's most important? And sometimes you can cast a wider net. You can, look a little above their price range and negotiate down. You can look in different areas and have them move out an extra 10 or 15 miles and cast a wider net that way. Sometimes you can find the perfect house for sale by owner or off market. So it challenges you as the agent to do some extra legwork. But the reality is we need to get back to expectations, have the right conversations. Are we looking for the perfect house? Or is this a matter that they'd like to move in the perfect house, or do they need to move? We got to find the best option. There's a difference between those two scenarios.
Yeah, I mean, again, we keep referring back to being one of the largest financial transactions, but also most complex and complicated, right? So that initial meeting that you have, the consultation with the listing, a seller or buyer, you need to find not just the price, the interest rate, the style of home, the place they want to move to, but their motivation, why they're doing this. You keep touching that 4 or 5 times already, I've heard, right? Mm-hmm. So for the most part, seller has to sell, buyers want to buy. That's normally what it is. Because why would you sell your home you're in if you didn't have to, right? Either because you're moving first at the job, you're unfortunately going through a divorce or medical situation.
This is a higher need.
That's right. Yeah. Or you're having more kids, or now your kids are leaving you. So there's a reason why you have to sell usually, whereas the buyers want to buy because they don't want to be where they're at. They want to move. So when you have those conversations with them, you need to find out their true motivation, because once you determine their motivation, you can now come up with a strategy with your buyers or seller to start the search process. And then from there, crafting what you need to do to negotiate and to make sure you help them achieve their goals, which is why great agents are really good at not just the technical part of how the real estate transaction is done, but strategically, negotiation, and all of that.
And I think too, the important thing to think of is this: some people cannot adjust their expectation, and they're not going to like what they see out there, and they're going to decide that where they're at is better than where they could go. And the faster you can help them determine that, the better, because it's going to get them out of your active pipeline list, right? You're going to put them on the shelf for a while. It's almost like it's a cure worse than the disease, mm-hmm. right? If I have a pain point where I'm living, I need to move away from it. Again, too far from work or whatever it is.
Yep.
But the cure might be, well, the house that I would pick up for my budget is actually worse. I don't like it. I like my situation better here.
That's right.
So the faster you can help them determine that, the better. What we're talking about is moving people through your pipeline faster. So you're not clogging your pipeline up with things that are non-productive, and helping determine who you can really work with and be successful with. Because here's the reality, guys. You're probably going to have to talk to more people and have more of a proactive plan to build your pipeline and to find clients than what you did before. Not reactive, not waiting for them to come to you, but proactive, because you might have to talk to 3 or 4 times as many people to find as many people that you can actually work with that are going to work out. That way you can shorten the time in your pipeline, move people out that really aren't going to be successful, or put them on the shelf until their expectations readjust. Hopefully that makes sense. The way I said it.
Well, a little bit tangent on this too, but again, because it's one of the largest financial transactions, sometimes besides motivation, you also might want to find out who are the true decision makers, mm-hmm. especially first-time home buyers, right? They're new to this. They don't know the whole process. They're very confused already, but sometimes it could be the significant other, but many times the parents, because they're helping them or they're giving them advice. I mean, how many times have you guys lost a deal because you're doing a walkthrough at inspection and dad doesn't like the way the door is hung in the left versus the right side? You know, the doorknob is not right. Let's get out this deal. So you definitely, there's a lot more goes into a real estate transaction than you know, the new agent just going through school thinking, how do you complete a purchase agreement? How do you do an amendment? You know, how do you do some of these stuff? But there's a lot more.
You got it. All right, moving on to the next question here. Should I wait to buy a house until rates go down? Or what if a buyer says to you, you know, should I wait till the rates come down to buy a house? Let's see. Or should we buy regardless of the rates? That's really what the question is, if we're reading it right. So here's the thing. We talked about it again. The rates may stabilize, they may not. It comes back again to the motivations, right? You may be waiting a long time for the rates to go down. So the question is, are you gonna gain by buying now, maybe doing some creative financing like a buy down? You know, if you go with a buy down and the rates, you take 3-4 years to go down. Well, in that buy down, you might be ahead. You might not even break even on the savings till year 4 or 5. Right. So, I mean, you might buy yourself some time. So the answer is, why do they want to move? How much equity will they gain over the next 3 to 4 years with those pay downs as you're paying that principal down? Right. And if they don't like where they're at for whatever reason, after 3 or 4 years, they can likely just sell and move to something different. So I always hate the strategy of waiting because you don't know what's going to happen. It could get better. It could get worse. You don't know. And if it gets better, guess what? You can always refi. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah, and I agree, Mike. That's why we say consult with the real estate professional or your mortgage person, right? Because they can help you do a comparison in your current situation. If you are a renter, it's almost a no-brainer, right, to do that. Because like Mike said, rates are like about 7 right now. They're predicting it's going to start dropping a little bit. It's never going to go back to, I don't think so, for a long time, but what we were seeing. But I think for the average, it's usually about 6 to 8%. Historically, it is the interest rate. So right now, 7 is right about there, but I think we'll get to about 6, maybe high 5, low 6 here in the 2023. But even then, the comparison you need to do to see if it make the right decision for you. But he already said 2-3 years from now, you may move again, and or if rate gets better, you can always refinance. But in the meantime, consult with your CPA and your tax person, of course. But owning a home has a lot of advantages. You got your tax write-off, your depreciation, your appreciation. So this is why it's better to own and rent in most cases.
Here's the thing too, you brought up something that could be very either or scenarios, because let's say they do stabilize at 5.5-6% here in 23, but what if they don't? What if the glass half empty pessimist of the economic indicators will say, or economic experts will say, no, it's probably going to go up to anywhere from 8.5 to 9. Those predictions are out there too for certain reasons. So anyway, long story short, we don't know what's going to happen. If they get better, you can refi. If you get worse, you got in before they got worse. That's how I look at it. There's never the best way to answer this is, when should I buy real estate? Yesterday. That's always the best answer.
Absolutely. And owning a home is an asset that you can also have, right? That can hopefully grow for you in most of the time in the market. So again, you can either pay your own mortgage or you pay someone else's mortgage if you're a renter right now. But if you are a buyer looking to buy up or buy down or move, again, it's all about your motivation. So a lot of the time, the interest rate shouldn't even come into play, to be honest with you, right? Because it's based on your motivation.
Okay, so next question. Let's see. How are agents getting business in a shifting market? I'll start with this one. So there's no one answer to say how they're getting business. I will say some people slid by very easily in the last 5-6 years, waiting for the business to come to them. So the first thing that I will tell you how agents are getting business are getting more proactive. And as you probably heard us talk about this before, but it's looking like now that 93% of the business is going to the top 5% of the agents, right? I mean, we're talking, this is not the 80-20 rule anymore. It's actually different. So how is that happening? How is agents getting business in the shifting market? And somehow, how are agents getting even more business? Number one, it starts with a proactive plan and approach, right? But number two, the thing I will say is diversifying your lead sources. What I'm watching with agents that are figuring this out very wisely is if nothing changes, nothing changes. If you have the same SOI you always had, and there's less transactions available, less referrals available, naturally with the market, your SOI will produce less if you change nothing. Right. So proactively, you can work your SOI. When I say SOI, I'm talking sphere of influence, where a lot of people pull their business from. But diversifying out of just your sphere of influence, or diversifying out of just online lead gen, getting 2 or 3 really solid pillars of where you're getting business from, whether it's online lead gen, open houses, SOI, geo farming, physicals expireds, whatever you're adding these pillars into, and then putting proactive plans, diversifying and filling those pillars up. For people that are doing online lead gen, for example, and they got 1 or 2 lead sources, they're adding 4 or 5 other ones. They're filling that pillar out. People that are doing open houses have done pretty good with that. They're adding more open houses. Again, you're gonna have to talk to more people to have the same result. And if you want to get a higher result, you're talking to more people, working on your close rate, working your conversion rate, working on your techniques to gain more referrals and more repeat business. That's how they're doing it. But if nothing changes, nothing changes. If the market's going to go down, your business will. So be proactive, diversify lead sources, work on your skill sets.
You're so right, Mike, because we constantly are reminding people all the time, right, that what we do, we are in the people business. So you work with people and you're trying to run and grow a business. Well, in business, system run business, people run system. So the top producer, Mike's talking about the 5% that's doing 93% of the market. They have process system in place that they set up that they consistently execute, all the way down to working your database, managing them, having multiple lead sources like you just said, and open houses. I don't know how much I can say to go back to the basics. The open houses has always worked if you consistently are doing them, right? And then the people part. People work with people they like and trust. Because of that, we believe visibility is credibility. So you got to be out there marketing yourself, because on an average, everyone know, I think 8 to 11 agents or something, real estate professional, right? Because everyone seems to be an agent. So you want to separate yourself out, and the more visible you are, the more credible you become. So leveraging social media, going back to all your marketing channel that you have to execute on it consistently with the process system is what will separate you from the other 90% of the people.
And I do think too, it's good when you diversify your lead sources to have a couple sources that people self-identify they're in the market right now. Open houses and physical expireds are 2 places they do that. They've raised their hand and said, I am in the market right now. When you're doing things such as working with your SOI, sending geo farming or circle prospecting mailings, you're hoping to pick somebody up in your efforts that's in the market. But keep in mind, these other groups we're talking about are raising their hands saying, I'm in it right now.
Yep.
So it's good to have a little bit of diversity in how you search these people out. So, if you're doing open houses, for example, if that's different for you or better for you than calling physicals or expires, maybe that's not in your wheelhouse, not in your personality, but open houses might be. Then I would really double down there, because there's people that are ready to buy and sell right now. And maybe if you're doing really well with your sphere of influence in relational business, believe it or not, online lead generation goes really well with that. Really well with that. You'd be surprised how well you jive with people that are looking for help. They're inbound leads coming from somewhere saying, I need help learning about this property. So figure out for your personality type what works and add some different lead sources. Okay. Our questions are slowing down here. I think we got just a couple left.
Yeah, well, we only have a few more minutes left in our first session here anyway. Mm-hmm. Maybe, Mike, if it's okay, if I can add kind of a tangent, but the same a little bit, right? Like, how do I get more business? So we talked about, some social media strategy for you to have. I mean, something we haven't talked about much, and Mike, you can touch on this next, is as a real estate professional, we don't have structure, most of us. Mm-hmm. Like if you have a regular job, you show up and you check in, you punch in from 8 to 5. These are the things you do. But if you don't have a daily perfect schedule, what you should be doing every day, I'll let you touch on that when I'm done here. But the other thing I want to touch on is social media, leveraging social media to market. You got your Facebook, you got your Instagram, you got, all the LinkedIn, all these other things. But one thing you should be doing is consistently doing it. When I see a lot of people come on, they'll post, and all they post about is congratulations to my buyers and sellers, right? We sold it in 2 days, all this other thing. That's if I was somebody in your sphere and I'm not looking to buy or sell right now, I'll just ignore you. So one thing we recommend you do is stay in front of the people that you know, right? So STAY. Mike and I love acronyms. So stay is sell is S. So when you post congratulations to my buyer or seller, that's selling something, right? That's good. Do that too. But then
concept.
That's right. T is teach. You want to establish yourself as the expert in the field. So start teaching, talking to the people out there about what you know. Before you list a home, 3 things you should do, right? If you're a buyer, this is how you find a good buyer agent to work with. A is advice. Give advice on things, life in general. Mike and I have built this relationship already when people like and trust us. So how many times you and I got a call and said, hey, I'm looking to buy insurance. I'm buying a new car. Who do I think I should call? Right? They call you for advice. You want to establish yourself to people they can like and trust you. And then why is you? You want to be vulnerable. You want to be real. You want to be authentic. So posting in your personal life. I see many agents on Facebook that post stuff. I don't know who they are, right? Besides buying and selling.
Yeah.
Mike, I know you post about, you with your now fiance out doing something.
Mm-hmm.
People are, oh, that's what Mike, he likes to ride motorcycle. People start identifying with you. So now you get the attract versus chasing mentality.
Yeah. So attracting versus chasing business, and you can do both, and you can do both very well, but attracting business tends to be a little bit easier. And I will say this too, on social media, what Long's talking about is really a content grid, a grid of different categories that you post in, right? And I think each one's important. You should have a proof of concept saying, here, I actually sell real estate. I'm not just licensed, I'm active and I sell real estate. And you, excuse me, you should be educating. What's going to separate you as a local market expert? It's what you say, what you offer. So having that different grid and then having a calendar of when the posts go out. When Long brought up the perfect daily schedule, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but how you can actually schedule this into your task management and your routines every day to what you should be posting with intention, with a plan and a sequence. That's going to be important. But I will say this too, when you're thinking about that idea of teaching, I think there's 3 ways that people generally sell real estate to others. Most of us try to sell on our personality. We all sound alike. It's a sea of sameness. We talk about the same things, and there's really no distinguishing factor. But if you like me more than the other person, you'll use me. Right? 90% of us, I'd say, probably do that. The next kind of step down or step up, I should say, is when they sell to education. When they're educating people about things that they can't find easily other places. They're like, hey, wait a second, Long is telling me this stuff. I've never heard this before. So, I think I need to really work with Long because I can't get this information elsewhere. Now, even if Long's personality is not as good as somebody else's, his education is good enough that people feel like they need him.
Knowledge and expertise.
Every time. And then the last step up and the biggest is probably going to be selling to products or services that people can't find without you or not find easily, right? Your niches. So we're talking about things like, right now at RG, we've got a program that we go in and we improve listings before we put them on the market. When listings were selling super fast, we weren't getting the same volume of want and need for that. Right now, we're getting tons of calls every single week because they're realizing, hey, I can come in, we can come in, we can improve your home, a checklist of different items we can do. We can hold the bill for that till closing. Your seller sells for a higher amount of dollars, sells quicker, and the contractor is paid back at closing, doesn't have to be paid up front, right? Cash offers from institutional investors, we're still leveraging that. And we're still leveraging ways to remove contingencies so you can move away from your home before selling it so you can put non-contingent offers in. And we've got all these products, right? Now, not just RG products, but there's other products out there too. I mean, credit repair products, that's a product that if you have something really good, somebody might use you because you have that product. Staging might be a product. We can go on and on, product after product and service after service. But my point is you can sell to your personality, your education, or products and services, or if you can nail it all 3, that makes you extremely valuable, right? So try to think about what are you actually talking about? What are you showing online? What are you talking about in your consultations? What obstacles do you see that a buyer in their expectations has, and what product or service or education can you offer in order to remove that obstacle? That's how people are getting business through smart methods like that.
Yeah, and Mike, you're so right, because to be a true real estate professional and consultant, you need to learn more about their needs and wants and what they're looking for, and then have option for them to consider, right? Because you can't just give them always buy this one time. But I know we're going to wrap up our first sessions here, Mike. So I want you to end with, I think it's very important for real estate professionals because most of them don't know what they should be doing every day, and they go through with no consistency and no structure, which is a perfect daily schedule.
Right. And I'll tell you, so we could talk all day long. Every time I talk about routines, I get somebody that gets offended because they don't have a routine and they're like, but I'm still successful. And so I'm not going to offend anybody. I'm going to tell you the truth. Having your routines, it's all about habits. Habits will trump motivation all day long. If you're waiting to feel like doing something, you're never going to be consistent. And consistency is what kills in real estate. It crushes in real estate when you have consistency, even over skill set. So if you can set yourself up for daily habits and routines, starting all the way from the morning. I mean, I know agents that are crushing it right now because they're up and they get more done by the time that you get out of bed, or most people get out of bed and start working. Half their day is already done. They're already ahead of you in their day. Well, compound that over a week, a month, a year. It's like they've gained an extra year on you, right? So getting those morning routines dialed in really well, and then getting your daily habits of how you're spending your workday, how you're avoiding distraction, how you're only working on certain tasks at certain times, how your lead generation and lead follow-up, I don't care if you're working with your SOI or any other source, but that is such a protected, non-negotiable time. Watch agents throw that out the window. They would never throw out the window a listing listing presentation or listing appointment. If a listing appointment happens, they're not answering their phone, they're not looking at Facebook, they're not doing other tasks, but in their lead gen time, they're throwing that out the window and they're allowing everything else to come in, right? And they're making excuses why they can't stay consistent. I've got kids, I got this and this and that. Yet they can still find their way to a listing listing appointment, right? So it's a mindset. It's a mindset of how valuable that time is. It is setting your routines up and your tasks and your habits in a way, setting yourself up so you can be successful to protect that time. The only thing you make money doing in real estate is generating leads, following up leads, converting leads, and closing them. That's it. That's the only thing we actually make money at. And when I say leads, it can be referrals. I mean, I'm just saying it's opportunity. Don't think leads is like online leads. It's all opportunity. So setting yourself for a schedule that allows you to be productive every day, routines and habits that are non-negotiable. Don't wait for motivation. You're not always going to have it because a habit itself is compulsive. You feel compelled to do it. Motivation is fleeting like any other emotion, right? Like it's like an emotion. It's the cousin of an emotion. It's close to an emotion. It's a feeling, right? So motivation is fleeting. And habits are compulsive. I want you guys to remember that.
Yeah, I think for the next session, we do it again, Mike, next month. Maybe we should spend also some time on mindset and the why, right? Why people do why. So we're not running out of time now, but to add to what you're talking about is everyone should start with a goal in mind, because if you don't have a goal, you can't do anything. So let's say your goal is to help 24 family this year, close 24 transactions. Once you know that 24, you can reverse engineer back. So you know you got 24, then you need to be working with probably 30 people because 6 of those people will drop out. They change their mind. They can't qualify, right? To get the 30 contracts signed, you might need to have 60 appointments because 50% of people you meet with decide to work with Long versus Mike. Okay, so you need to have 60 appointments. To get 60 appointments, how many conversations you need to have with people to gain the 60 appointment, right? Because you have cancellation, reschedule. So once you reverse engineer this down, that's how your daily schedule will be set up. From 9 to 11 o'clock, I am going to do this task, okay? And from 11 to 1, I'm going to do this. And then from 3 to 5, I go do showing. Hey, you have to have a structured daily schedule set up and consistently execute. And I will guarantee you, you'll be successful when you hit your goal.
All right, so it looks like we got, okay, so how about if your personal schedule changes a bit? Is that okay? Absolutely. I think it's really important to allow yourself flexibility that you can change schedules, but do so proactively. What I mean by that is don't just throw things out and act like it's okay and I'll pick it up tomorrow. If something doesn't work in your schedule, go ahead and change it. Some people do really good at their lead gen activities in the morning. Some do it better at night. Little tricks are going to be good too. Like for one thing, if I'm going to be showing houses, I know I have a client, I will set the showing times myself. I will say, hey, from 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock is when I'm out showing houses. So when they see one they like, my question is, I'm glad you found what you like. What works for you? Do you want to see it at 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock? Instead of asking them, when would you like to see it, right? Because they can take you off your schedule very easily. So controlling your schedule and then figuring out what works for you, what you need to change, how you need to tweak it, keep playing with it until you find what you can be consistent at.
Yeah, I think I just added another topic for next time, time management. Yeah, that's so important for our next topic, but I totally agree. But caveat to that is if you need to adjust for a weekly, make sure you still stay in your goal. Meaning if you have to do something and you have to readjust it next week, catch up the following week on making the extra call or catch up to where. That's right, or the following day to make sure you catch up to consistently doing it to hit your goal.
Because it's time management, but it's also attention management too, right? You have to manage your time and attention. So a lot of people will sit down to do an important task, but they're all over the place and not really focusing. And the focus of it is going to be where the key is. Sitting down to be in your habit is one thing, but when you're focused with it and you're not allowing the distractions in, and you're laser focused, keep in mind, this is something I think is actually pretty cool. One of the key fundamental similarities between multimillionaires and billionaires is what they call obsessed focused, right? Or focused obsession. Sorry, that's what it is, right? It's focused obsession. They're obsessed at whatever the heck they're doing, and it's so laser focused. It's not where they got to beat themselves up to get in the groove. It's actually the opposite. They got to beat themselves to get out of it, to stop doing it, right? So the more laser focused and obsessed we can be about what we're doing, the higher production we're going to have. It's not about being the smartest person.
That's right.
It's about being focused and organized.
Yep. Well, when you're having fun, time flies when you're having fun. So we come to an end already. We kind of ran a little bit over. This has been engaging, Mike. A lot of great questions. So, love to keep doing this, and we'll definitely have to post out when we're doing it again next month.
You got it. Thanks, everybody. Hope you guys had a good time.